Hello everyone, this is Gaurav from Automation Hacks, and in this video we are going to look at method references within Java 8. So what is a method reference? We will understand this with an example, but in a nutshell, it provides you an ability to access instance as well as other sort of methods very conveniently within Lambda expressions. If you are coming very new to Lambda as a construct, it is basically a way for you to define a function without a name or an anonymous function, in other words. This can be very useful when you're working with, say, creating a higher order function, which is a function that takes a function as an input and then does something with it. Or, as we will see later, it turns especially useful when we are working with Java streams, which we use extensively while creating automation, regardless for whatever app you are working on. So let's understand this with an example. So I have a simple user class. Treat this as any other Pojo, which with a single member of name, a constructor, and then I have couple of methods on there, right? So we have a method called as is this user really a real user, which takes an instance of this class, checks whether the name is not empty, and if it is not empty, then it returns a true. Similarly, we have a is legal name sort of Boolean check, which takes the user and checks whether the length of the name is greater than one, right? Now, just to have an example around it, let's assume you have a list of such users. So we have a generic sort of base class. This is again another good programming practice where you always program to the interface rather than a very specific type. And list is a sort of broader interface that you can program to, which can work with many other types of instances within Java. So we have a list of multiple users, and here I have, John, Doe, Jane, an empty user, Alice, and things like that, right? So now let's understand how method references looks like. So how would it work if we had to basically work using a Lambda expression? So, and we haven't yet introduced streams. We will in an upcoming video, but for now, we'll just try to make sense of what we have. So here, say I want to basically iterate in this list of users one by one, only return a user which has which is a real user, basically whose name is not really empty. So as you can see, I have couple of users here which are sort of empty. So, how you work with this is you call any sort of collection or any sort of list in Java, and you call the stream method on it first. The stream method will give you an instance of stream class, and then you can actually iterate in that collection one by one and then do operations on top. So here I want to do any match, which is essentially a sort of check, which will basically take a condition and it will check whether it found any sort of item within that collection which matches that condition. So in a simple way, it's like a question that you ask of every element in a sort of list, right? So here, this is how you can actually create a lambda expression or an anonymous function. So notice we pass the parameter first. We don't really need to specify the type if it is a single parameter. If we had, say, multiple parameters, we would need to specify the type and then also enclose it within brackets. But in case of single parameter, this is optional. And now I want to check. I know that this U should be of users because users is a list of user. And I basically just call, the static method directly. So I have user dot is real user, and I pass the instance that I'm currently working with. Now this will give me an answer whether, did it find any user whose name is non-empty. Just by seeing the list, we can make sense that this will actually evaluate to true. But now with method references, you can make this syntax much more concise. So now this is an example of how we would do it in Java 8. So you have the same sort of stream method, you have the same any match, but notice to access a static sort of member of that class, I can use these double colons and directly just specify the method that I want to access. I also don't need to specify the parameter or pass it explicitly, since this is something that Java will understand on its own. Also notice that if you are using IntelliJ and you do option enter, IntelliJ will give you this sort of auto sort of refactoring wherein you can replace this lambda with a method reference, and uh, this is essentially what you're seeing right now, right? So I'll keep it like this, and then we also have a test whether both of these methods return us the same outcome. So let's run this, and this test passes, which is exactly what we felt. Also, just like you saw, accessing a static member within a class, similarly, we can also call an instance method. So in the above example, you see is legal name is an instance member of this class, right? So how do we work with that within method references? So just to illustrate it, I have an empty user, which is an instance of this class. I again sort of use the Stream API to iterate in my users. And now I can essentially call this instance, right? With a similar syntax. I can pass, instead of the class name, I can pass it an instance. And then within that instance, I can pick any instance method, essentially something that's non-static. And the semantics would be very similar to what we saw here. So if you notice here, instead of the class, it's an instance, and then same double quotes and followed by a method that I want to call. So let's check whether this returns us true, and it does. So this is how you can work with method references within Java. You can use it to make your Java 8 sort of automation code more concise. So that's all for method references, and I'll see you in the next video.